Hello. Today, I am going to be interviewing someone who has had a career in an area that has fascinated me for at least 25 years. I'm going to tell you why. 25 years ago, I was out in Coronado. My brother in law was a vice admiral in the United States Navy, and I'm in a hotel for some change of command. I can't remember which one it was. And I'm in the hotel and I'm looking out the window and I see this helicopter come by, and a bunch of guys, one at a time, are dropped off in full gear and they're treading water. And I went to breakfast and did a few things. And a couple of hours later, they're still out there treading water. And I remember that afternoon, I said to my brother-in-law, I said, Admiral, what the heck's up with that helicopter dropping those guys? He goes, oh, that's Navy SEAL training. He goes, Diane, they're going to be fine. That's not even the worst of it. And that day, I said, I cannot wait till the moment that I can interview someone who was a Navy SEAL. And today, my guest is Don Mann. Not only was he a Navy SEAL, I don't even know if you can say was. I think once you are, you always are. And he was a special operations technician. Today, he has a book and he teaches leaders about the skills that he learned that are in another level, if you ask me, than anybody else out there. So welcome, Don.
Thank you, Diane. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
I got to tell you, I still have mild trauma when I think about those Navy SEALs treading water for hours off Coronado Island.
Well, I'm thinking that you might have been in Hotel del Coronado, right there on the Strand, which is the halfway point from where Bud's used to be, SEAL training. For the 4 mile runs, that was a halfway point. That's a mile. Go to the fence. It's 2 miles and back. And what you saw was a cast and recovery. The helicopter comes in. The guys either jump off or fast rope down, and then you just tread water. And but those, you love it. I mean, it's so much fun. The noise from the helicopter getting dropped in the water. You got a wetsuit on, and you've got fins on, and you're in right next to Hotel del Coronado. You're in Coronado, just loving it. It was really probably the best time in my life being there in Coronado doing that stuff.
Can you give us a little background before we get into what you learned as a Navy SEAL? How'd you choose to take that route in life?
When you were given that nice introduction, the same thing happened to me as it did to you. I wanted to serve our country. My father was a vet, and when the Japanese attacked us, my father and his two brothers and sisters all stopped what they were doing. My father quit high school, and they went and joined the military. And so he always had that real deep sense of patriotism that we all got too, just growing up. So I always knew I was going to serve. And when I joined, growing up and all the Vietnam War was going on, so I just assumed I'd go to Vietnam. And my father's Navy, so I went to the Navy recruiter. And for some reason, um, you know, Navy wasn't my first choice. My life was very physical. I liked physical things. So I went to the Marine recruiter first, which was next door to the Navy recruiter. And I don't know why, but that Marine recruiter didn't impress me. And I was just a kid from high school who knew nothing. But he didn't impress me for some reason. I said, well, why not go next door to the Navy recruiter? And his name was Diamond Jim Brady. I still remember him. His uniform was so pressed and he was just squared away. And I told him, my background, what I like to do. And he said, let me show you a video. And it was called Men with Green Faces. And it was all about SEAL training. And probably within 2 or 3 minutes of watching that video, I knew where my life had to go. I just was positive. There was no backup plan. There was no, well, if this doesn't work, I'll do something else. When I saw those guys jumping from helos and running and swimming and diving and parachuting and shooting and going all over the world and working out like that, I was thinking, that's all I want to do. And I've never changed my mind. And so luckily I stepped into the Navy recruiter after being disappointed from the Marine. He's probably the only Marine recruiter in history that anybody would say they were not impressed by. But yeah, and then I served 21 years. And I did some time with the Marines because I was a corpsman, a medic. So you had to learn your skill before going to be a SEAL medic. And the career, I loved it. SEAL Team 1, SEAL Team 2, and I was at SEAL Team 6 twice, once enlisted man, and then I got commissioned as a warrant officer. So I was there twice and then retired after 21 years and then went right to the CIA as a contractor and did that for 25 years. And using all the SEAL skills and everything you develop along the way. And for me, though, it's a bit of a guilt feeling because I was in all the war zones, but when you're a CIA contractor, it's much, much easier than being a SEAL. So the guys who are still in and stayed in after 9/11, uh, it was a different world because before 9/11, there wasn't that much action. So you
Mhm.
get out and you go into the CIA. And we saw a lot with the CIA, but once 9/11 happened, then the SEALs and the military just got very busy. But I just loved every bit of it was just by coincidence and by accident, it all happened.
What are obviously the training is different than anything else. It's not like you just walk into a corporate world and you go through your ranks in different ways. How would you define training and the big takeaways that you got from the training process to become a SEAL?
Well, the training was difficult.
Mhm.
It's not the most difficult thing I've ever done. I've done a lot of things more difficult on my own, actually.
Mhm.
And I remind
Okay,
myself
like
that
what?
quite
Like what?
trying to summit Everest or doing a 500 or 600-mile 10-day, 11-day nonstop adventure race with everything on my back, where you'd push yourself to hallucinate, pass out, or bleed. And I've done that so many times, but I never pushed myself that hard in SEAL training.
So you're a bit of an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where does
Yeah.
that come from?
Well, I
Is that
guess going back to
nature, nurture? What is it?
my father was a stunt pilot, so it probably came from him. And I raced motorcycles
Oh,
when
your
I was a
poor
kid.
mother.
I know. I feel so bad for her all the time. She's passed, but I always think, oh, what we put her through is terrible. Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah. And so I just raced motorcycles and I thought that would be all there was to life, just going real fast and going off these jumps. And a friend of mine said, he was a professional. He said, if you want to go pro, you better start running. And I didn't do anything like that. So I ran with him and he just blew me away on the 10-mile course we're doing. He said, you better start running more if you want to become a pro. You better get in shape. He said, train for a running race. And I didn't know they had running races.
Mhm.
And he said, yeah, there is. There's one coming up. It's called Boston Marathon. And I said, well, how long is it? He said, 26.2 miles. I said, Dave, people don't run that far. So all I had to do, to get back to your question on training, all I had to do was promise myself to put one foot in front of the other. And this was way before I went to Buds. So I had that mindset before I went to SEAL training. And I did that marathon and I did 30 other marathons within 36 months. And all I had to do was promise myself I'd go faster than a certain time and I wouldn't quit. So when I got to Buds, I had done Ironmans, I had done all these marathons and mountaineering, and I couldn't have been more prepared physically. And mentally, I was very, very prepared because mentally, I was thinking, nothing is going to stop me. I mean, I will push myself. I'll never quit, but I might pass out. I might bleed. I might hallucinate, but that's okay. And the times I push myself to passing out, I got my break. I mean, I got a break. And I did two Ironmans in one day and mile 32.
Day?
Yep, in two in one day. And mile
Never
32
heard of
on
that.
the run. Yeah, I know. Not
You're a
it's
glutton
called an
for
out.
punishment.
Yeah. But I passed out at I started seeing the white stars and spitting up some bile and sorry about that, but and I started wobbling. And when I woke
Listen,
up,
we have to go back on that. Why the heck did you decide it was a good idea to do two Ironmans in one day? Was this a bet over a beer that you couldn't back down from?
no, but the philosophy I had then and still have now works. And it goes back to the buds training. I'd set a macro goal, some
Yeah.
goal that just didn't seem possible. Like going to Buds, people are saying, "Are you kidding? You're going to go to that course that's 6 months long? It's the hardest training in the world."
Mhm.
So I just pick a hard goal, like an Ironman was a goal at one point. Then I made it two Ironmans, but I just pick what's called a macro goal, and then just design a series of micro goals to reach it. So for Buds, for instance, all I knew is I had to swim a lot, and I had to do a lot of push-ups and pull-ups and sit-ups, and I had to run a lot. So those were my micro goals, and I just set them. And by the time I got to Buds, I was ready. I was ready. And to do two Ironmans in one day, I knew I had to be able to do an Ironman, and then I had to do more than a 2.4 mile swim. I had to do a 4.8 mile swim. Instead of just a 112-mile bike ride, I had to do 224-mile bike ride. And then instead of one marathon, two marathons, 52.4 mile run. And it hurt a lot, and I passed out. But when I woke up and I saw the cyclists going by and the runners, I just wondered why I was sleeping outside. And then I realized, wow, I got to get up. I'm in the double Ironman. I got up and I wiped the bile off and went on and finished. And it just proved to me that anytime I thought something was too physically challenging or too hard, I was wrong, because if something was too hard for me, which that was apparently, because I passed out. But I woke up, I got the break I needed. I got the break I needed. I got the rest I needed. I was recovered for a few minutes and got up and finished. So my philosophy came, if it's too hard, I'll pass out or bleed or pass or hallucinate.
Mhm.
And that I just to push myself that to that level at least once a month for about 20, 22 years or so.
Wow.
But I was able to accomplish everything I wanted to accomplish. Some things my body wouldn't let me, but my mind would keep going.
I was going to say that's very interesting mind control to do something like that, because you have got to fight all kinds of demons, all kinds of resistance, all kinds of stop. What are you doing this for? All those thoughts that would come through a normal person's brain. Only kidding you, Don. But, like you would have major self debates. Let's talk about mind control, because I love mind studies.
Yeah, I know you do. I know. But when you're saying that, Diane, I don't have those debates in my head.
Mm,
I don't have those. Like, why am I doing this to myself? I
mm,
just don't have them. What I'll do is I set in my mind a macro goal, and there's no option but to go for it.
mhm,
I don't have in my mind, uh, I've quit twice in my life. And one time was with that person I told you about. I was running. He wanted to do a 10-mile run, but I was a non-runner. I wasn't a runner. And I said, Dave, I'll do it. You're a professional. I'm not. I want to be a professional. And if you say to run 10 miles, I'll do it. And we were teenagers. We are just kids. And we had the same body type, lean kids, probably weighed about 150 pounds each or something. We're about the same height. We looked about the same. But when he asked me to do that 10-mile run with him, I ran the first mile with him, which was the first time I ran a mile. And I was thinking, wow, that I don't like this at all. And the
mhm,
second mile, I liked it a lot less. It was worse. And then the third mile, I hated it. And Dave was just focused and running. And the third mile, I quit and I sat on the grass and I watched him do his other 7 miles. And it dawned on me then, that day, when I was a teenager, that the difference between him and I is he's going to be successful because he pushes through that pain. He's focused on a goal. It doesn't matter how much it hurts. He's going for it. And for me, I feel a little uncomfortable and I quit. And to me, that day set the
mhm,
lesson in my mind that something's worth doing. It's going to hurt, and it's okay if it hurts. And then he told me, he said he was kind of fed up with me. He said, "Hey, if you want to really train, get back to me, but you're in no shape. Go train for a running race." And that was the Boston Marathon. And as a non-runner, I ran it, just putting one leg in front of the other. And that mentality lasted me for over 1,000 races,
mhm.
and getting through SEAL training and climbing mountains and attempting Everest. I didn't make it to the top of Everest, but just things like that. Yeah, and so I've just done over 1,000 of those things now, and I still do them. A lot less distance, but a lot slower too. But I still do them.
Something you mentioned, which, and you've said it a couple of times now, so I'd like to go back to it, is you talked about breaking down challenges into surmountable goals.
Yeah,
Can you elaborate on that, Don?
sure. Okay. To me, I think I was fascinated by TV as a young boy. The police, chasing the bad guy and people jumping from one building to the other. It's just that excitement. My father being the stunt pilot and taking me on these crazy flights. I loved excitement. And first mini bike and then motorcycle, going off at jumps and going up high in the air. I just loved that excitement. And I exercised all the time. So and then the patriotism thing. There was three things: patriotism, excitement, and fitness. Those
Mm-hmm.
three things were a constant theme in my life. And so when I found all about SEAL training, it answered all of them in spades. It's like, wow, this is it. But then and I didn't call it macro goals and micro goals back then, but it was the same thing. As a little kid, I'd think, okay, I want to go do this race. And it was a fast, hard course, hard track. I was 17, 16 years old. I would do it. And then when I went into those bicycle racing, triathlons, and running races and kayak races and all those things, I'd pick the toughest races in the world and make those a macro goal. And initially, I would think, there's no way I can do that. But
Mm-hmm.
the more my mindset got stronger and stronger and stronger, not necessarily my body, that can only go so far and it starts breaking down, but your mind, I firmly, strongly believe that it could get stronger each and every day,
Mm-hmm.
because I always put myself in situations where I choose to do them. I choose to do a 500 to 600 mile nonstop race or climb Everest or go to Buds. I choose those things because I enjoy those things. But I always think about the people like the Bataan Death March, or maybe the prisoners in Nazi Germany, the people who didn't choose and they had to really persevere through these struggles. And they weren't trained to do these things, but they made it and they lived through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I always looked at those people like they had no choice and they can do it. I'm a guy who's fit. I could choose these hard goals, and I know I can do them because I'm choosing to do it. I enjoy it and I want to do it. But I didn't have the confidence at first. And I used to think I'd look across the line and see all these very fit people and super, long resumes, sports resumes, and I'd be intimidated. And then I got to the point after my mindset got a little stronger that there's no reason I can't at least keep up with these people, whatever the sport might be. And then after a while, I was thinking, well, all I have to do is push myself a little harder. It's going to hurt a little bit more, but that's okay. Just push myself a little bit harder, and I should be able to beat these people. And then it was like, there's no reason anybody should be in front of me. And
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's just how, because my mindset kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger. But my body would break down, of course. But
Mm-hmm.
my mindset was, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And it worked. And it worked. My The only time it ever stopped me is if my body broke down or I passed out or something like that. Like on Everest, I came really close to dying, and
Mm-hmm.
that was 9 years ago. And people up there, a lot of them who die, they get HAPE and HACE, high altitude pulmonary edema and cerebral edema. And it's just where your lungs fill up with fluid and your brain cavity, the space between your brain and your skull, fills with fluid and starts pressing on your brain. But a lot of people die up there from that. And the year I went, there were just lots of avalanches. And the year before, everybody in base camp was killed because the avalanche killed all the people when it came through base camp. And so it was a really difficult year. And
Mm-hmm.
Discovery Channel had even called me before I went there. They said, "We know you're going to Everest. We know it's going to be a real bad year because last year was the worst year ever, and the year before was the second worst year. We think it's going to be worse this year because of the mountains and the water and the ice coming off the mountains. It's just so many avalanches up there, and you just heard them and saw them all the time, and you just don't know when you're going to be swept away from an avalanche." And you can get HAPE and HACE, and you can get altitude sickness and hypothermia and frostbite, and you can fall through a crevasse. All that stuff can happen. But I swear, when I got there, I was thinking, there's no place in the world I'd rather be right now. I am so excited to be on Everest. And we had a really strong team. And Lydia Bradley was on our team, and she said, Don, you're the oldest one on our team, but you're not having any problems at all. I said, well, I feel so good right now. I just feel really, really good. And she is the first woman ever to summit Everest without oxygen. She summited 7 times. And so we had a strong team. And then our Sherpa got medevaced off because he got HAPE and HACE. Then our doctor got medevaced off for HAPE and HACE. And then our team of 11 went down to 6 and 5. And things started getting harder and harder the further up we'd go. And when I was climbing the ladder, as a vertical ladder, I started having a hard time breathing. And then when I put my head down, just fluid was coming out of my nose and mouth. And then it got dark, but it really didn't get dark. I was developing HAPE and HACE like so fast. The cerebral edema was pushing my brain. I lost my vision, my color vision. So it made it look like it was dark. Then my lungs filled up 3/4 with water, the fluid. And I started drowning in my own fluid in my lungs. So when I put my head down, it was just fluid coming out. And then I didn't know where I was. I was climbing this ladder, and if you look down, there's a crevasse. It looks like it goes to the center of the earth. It's a long fall. Nobody, lives through a fall through that. And I made it to the top, and I just passed out. And when I opened up my eyes, this person named Andre Dorje Sherpa, the most famous Sherpa in the world, and he's in all the mountaineering movies and everything. He was on our team, and I looked up and I saw him, and there could be no person in this world I'd rather see than him. He saved a lot of lives up there, and he summited like 11 times. He would have summited probably over 20, but he saved so many lives by bringing them back down when they get injured. And he said, "Can you walk?" But I couldn't talk at that time. I was just coughing and choking. And when I was breathing, it sounded like I was breathing in a fish tank or something. It's just gurgling. And I said, "Yeah, I can walk." And I put my hand on his shoulders. I put his oxygen mask on, but I kept passing out along the way. And we finally made it to this 200-foot ice cliff. And he said, "Can you rappel?" And I felt like saying, well, of course I can rappel. I've rappelled all my life, but I couldn't speak because I was just choking and coughing. And so he rappelled down, and it was just me and him. There's nobody else in sight. Anyway, we didn't know where the next person was. So he went down, and I had my harness on, my rappel device, and I grabbed the rope, and then I was thinking, I forgot how to rappel because I lost my memory. And but I saw a Sherpa that day or the day before or something. He wrapped the rope around his arm 8 or 9 times, and he just went down the ice cliff, just releasing one loop at a time. And I remembered seeing that. So I never did that before. I never even heard of anyone doing that. So I wrapped the rope around my arm a bunch of times, and I knew I had to get down. So I just released one loop at a time. And luckily, I had enough loops around my arm to make it down to where the Sherpa was. And then we made it back down to base camp,
Gosh.
and it was a bad storm, and he found this doctor because we didn't have a doctor anymore, and she said, "Oh, you better come listen to this." And she was asking other people to listen to my lungs, and they were almost filled with fluid, over 3/4. And she said she never heard HAPE that bad, high altitude pulmonary edema, and she said, "We have to get you off the mountain right away, or things aren't going to go well for you." She was telling me I was going to die in a nice way. But I couldn't really comprehend all this because I wasn't thinking clearly anymore. And so they just put me in a tent off the side so my choking and coughing didn't bother all the other climbers. And my mask, I had to kept getting all the fluid out because it was just filling with fluid. And then they came in, they said, "We're sorry, the helicopter can't make it in. There's a bad storm." And in other words, your chances are a lot less now. But I didn't really know that's what they were telling me because I wasn't thinking clearly. And the next day, sorry, helicopter can't come up. So I just stayed in that tent, coughing and choking. And then a helicopter did make it in, and we went down to Kathmandu, like straight down for an hour. And then I just got like scar tissue and stuff in my lungs now. But I tell you, Diana, people were so worried. They said, you must feel so disheartened and upset and depressed and all that because you didn't make it. I said, not at all. I never felt bad about not making it because I didn't give up. My body just said, you're not going a step further. And but that pain is not as bad as the pain I would have had, what I call that permanent pain and regret, wishing I tried it or thinking I could have tried it, because at least I tried it. And
Mm-hmm.
and then I went home and I was living alone, and I couldn't walk up my stairs to go to bed at night. It just hurt too much. The coughing and choking was just hurting my lungs so badly. And I hated the thought of having to walk out to my mailbox to get my mail. And I got a call from Discovery Channel in Canada. And they said, we're doing the 750-mile paddle across Canada unsupported. We wanted to know if you want to do it. It's a reality TV show. And I was coughing when I was talking to him. I said, well, I'm in my 60s and I've got Hape and Haste bad. And but yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. So I went out to Canada, and if you finished, you made a lot of money. And it was going to be $1 million. Then they brought it down to 100,000 because they split it. And I made it, and all I had to do was this, just like running that marathon, one step at a time. All I had to do is one paddle at a time, 18 hours a day for about 3 weeks. And I coughed a lot, but I made it, and then paid off my house, came home and paid off my house. And it's just proved to me I didn't have an excuse. I couldn't say, well, my lungs hurt, I don't have my memory, I don't have my vision all the way back yet. All I had to do is say yes and go for it. And that's been the story of my life, really. Just having the mindset, knowing you can do something, but then having the philosophy of the macro goal and micro goal. Well, okay, a 750-mile paddle, and I was a paddler anyways, so I'd go out and just do 15, 20-mile paddles on my own. And so I was ready, and it was hard to breathe, but I didn't go um, anaerobic. It was just aerobic paddling, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing I was just glad I said yes to. And I set the macro goal up high, and the micro goal was just paddling and getting ready for that.
Now you take all this experience and you've written a book and you coach people today, leaders and lecture. How do you translate all these wild, like awe-inspiring experiences into leadership lessons?
I love training. I love being trained. I love training people. I love it. As a SEAL, my later years, I was the advanced training officer at the SEAL team. So I love training people. And then I train people to do adventure racing and then train people to climb mountains. I mean, I just love training people to do hard things. And I've written 23 books now, and I'm not really, I don't really consider myself a writer, but I've written 23 books, and most of them have to do with some sort of motivation. And the first one was they were saying, come on, Don, you race at this high level, you train people to do this adventure racing, and you produce these races all over the world. Why don't you write a book on adventure racing? I said, I don't want to be behind a computer, and I don't want to write a book. And this person was persistent. He was a politician in Virginia. And he said, I'll tell you what, I'll get someone to type it up for you. You just give us some material by tape or computer.
Mhm.
So I did it. And that was my first book in 1998, The Complete Guide to Adventure Racing. And then when I went to work with the CIA, my boss asked me to write a book on shooting because I had all this material on shotguns, long guns, and pistols. I said, Jimmy, I don't want to write a book. It's a pain in the neck. I don't want to write a book. He said, you've got all the material there. Why don't you put it in chapter format and send it in? So I did. And that was the second book. And then the Navy asked me to write a book on survival for SEAL survival training. I said, I really don't want to write another book. They said, well, we'll give you a year in advance and we'll pay you up front. I said, okay, I'll do another book. So um, so it's been like a series of those weren't planned out evolutions by any means. Those were, why don't you do it? We'll help you along with it. And then it would be, okay, I better put this in my own system, the macro goal and micro goal. And I did. And then I wrote a series of fiction, nonfiction, and how-to books. And the last one, The Key Leaderships for Navy SEALs, I really enjoyed putting that book together. Because I was working for the Texas Bank Association, Indiana Bank Association, and Minnesota Bank Association. And I'd meet with these people, each bank association 4 times a year. So it's 12 meetings a year. And what they wanted to know is how to take SEAL principles and philosophies and bring them to the banking world. And
Mhm.
not giving away secrets or anything like that, but just the ethos, the principles,
Yeah.
basic philosophies you have in SEAL training. And the commander who put it together, he put together the program, then he retired and I moved in. So I didn't create this, and I really enjoyed it, and the bankers loved it. And then I did some talks on the same subject. So when the publisher asked me to write this book, I decided, well, yeah, I can do that. And I thought it would just be kind of a smaller project, but the more I got into it, looking at the aspects that can be taken from a SEAL community and into the business world, because I never thought that way. But the more I got into it, the more I thought applied to the business world. And it's really working hard, setting goals, being the team leader that you would want to work under. And I'd start looking at these guys, these commanding officers that I really, really admired and the traits that they had. And some of them, I mean, you would do anything in the world with them because you just trusted them and believed in them so much. We'd say you'd follow them to hell and back. And
Mhm.
and in combat and wars, you just wanted to be right by the other side and work with them. But those leadership skills I've never seen anywhere else
Mhm.
outside of the Navy. And your brother-in-law is a vice admiral, so he knows this better than anybody.
And
But
his son, my godson, his son, who is also my godson, was a Top Gun pilot in the Marines. He
oh,
just retired.
gee.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
you don't get better than that. I mean, that's the
it's
top notch of
unbelievable.
our military.
I love you guys. I mean, I have such admiration. And, you know, it's when my brother-in-law retired, I had owned an investor relations firm, and he came in as my chief operating officer for
Oh,
about 6 years. And I learned more from him. In fact, I'll run into people, and I sold the business in 2012. I'll run into people and they'll say, that thing the admiral said,
yeah.
about chain and command and respect and, showing up. There were so many things because, I mean, I grew this business. I was like a wild one, just it grew in spite of me. And there was no structure, and I was wearing 15 hats. And he came in and the deal was okay, don't second guess me. Let me do what I do. I mean, I learned it was like a rocket ship of learning having him around for
Mhm.
years.
Yeah, but being a Top Gun,
Oh yeah, the Top Gun guy. That was hilarious. He interned for me. He's really funny interview. Went to school, could have gone the Navy route. His father was, vice admiral. No. He was going to be a teacher. He went to first. He was going to be a snowboarder. Then he decided to school. Spent one day teaching, I think, and said, nah, I'm going to go sign up for the Marines.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, he had something in him that was burning. He had to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just left
Yeah,
as a
they have the best leadership in the military, I think. They're the best in the world, those guys. And you don't get people who are okay. You just get top notch in that organization.
I was with the
Yeah.
SEALs. I
Yeah.
mean, you're the elite of the elite. Any of those special forces, any of those like extreme roles that people do are it's a different everything. And anything of that can get translated into leadership
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's just not the same. I mean, when someone says, "Oh, we go to battle every day," with the stock market, I'm like, you have no fucking
I agree with you.
you have no
Well
freaking
said.
idea. Go talk to a SEAL. Go talk to a Top Gun pilot who's got 85 like bullet holes in his plane. Please.
Yeah, exactly. Diane, when I got out of the military, I didn't know people thought differently, because that's the only way I thought. And then when I got out, I realized a lot of people, like, I love the goal setting thing, but a lot of people, they set their goals and they set them really, really low, and they achieve them and they're happy with themselves. And they go home, oh yeah, I got a lot done today. Like, they'll never reach their full potential in life. They won't even fill, that pyramid of your full potential being here, and what most people do is here. They're way down here. And I realize, how do these people, how can they live with themselves? They have so much more potential, and they don't even go for it. They just take the easy way out. And I still see that all the time. I see it in my family. I see it everywhere. I'll never understand how people can be like that.
And you just said something. I admire the people who incredibly admire talking to someone like you, talking to anyone who is going beyond the peaks in their careers in any way, in something they love. Doesn't even have to be a career, just something they love. Our son does extreme skateboarding. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh God,
wow.
what makes you think smashing into cement like this is a good idea? But he goes into this zone and he is not going to quit until he goes, over that railing and down the 20 steps and slides down the next rail. It's like, oh my gosh, it's his form of flying. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's a commitment. And I admire it. Whereas when people like diss on it or express jealousy, I'm like, whoa, you have no idea what you're missing in life that you can't honor that. That shows possibility, human
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
potential. It's that human potential that listening to you talk about, that just plain the fact that we're talking after you came down from Mount Everest. I'm like, I want to shake your Sherpa's hand, and give him a hug and, give you a major high five.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we only have so much time here, and then you could either accomplish a lot and be very happy with your life, or think, I should have done this, I could have done that, or maybe this could have happened. I don't want that to be the case for me,
Mm-hmm.
or anybody that I'm close to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love right now, this older age I'm in now. I just love, I mean, my favorite thing is helping other people, and
Mm-hmm.
just assisting them. And um like right now, my sister, she needs some help now, and I just realized all I want to do is help people. But that kind of comes from training and trying to motivate. And I don't have all the answers. I don't pretend like I know a lot what's going on, but I do know how to motivate people.
Mm-hmm.
And I love doing that. And if there's only one thing I can do, that's the one thing I have done. And now I'm hosting 3 TV shows, and I don't really train people anymore. But during these 3 TV shows,
Yeah.
a
What
friend
are
of mine,
those?
one's called Surviving Mann, my last name, Mann.
I love it.
And thanks.
I
And the other one's,
love a good double entendre.
yeah, it was a friend of mine who came up with that. And actually, he asked me about 8 years ago. He said, I want to do a TV show. He's a TV producer and director. He said, where you're training people and shooting and survival and diving and all that stuff. I said, sure, Bob, sure. I never thought he'd do it, but he pulled it off. And now we're in the 5th season. So we have Surviving Man, then Surviving Man All Stars. I take those people and bring them up to another level. And then the mission. But I've had them in Belize diving under ships, attacking ships, and we capture them and bag them and hood them and interrogate them with real interrogators. And I push them in the desert land nav, underground navigation, and lots of shooting. The physical fitness I put them through is way harder than anything I've ever seen in SEAL teams. I punish these people. So I always say your pain is my pleasure. And I kind of mean it, because when they get punished, I know it's doing good things for them, and they love it. Um, so we do this log
These
PT.
masochists.
Pardon me?
where, where do you find these masochists?
Yeah, they just come out of the woodwork. The first show, though, we had 32 people, and a lot of them weren't that fit, so I wasn't able to really push them all where I wanted to push them. But now it's pretty much turned into like a tier 1 selection course, where we're teaching land navigation, shooting, survival, diving, ship attacks, and long swims. I have them on, swimming up current for an hour or a mile or 2 miles. In the middle of the night, we have them diving. We had them diving 140 feet with sharks. And I got some great co-hosts, like UFC fighters, Ken Shamrock, and people like that, just world renowned fighters, Randy Couture, which one of the greatest guys I've ever met. And then Sheriff Lamb, he's America's sheriff. And Casey Kasem, you might remember Casey Kasem. Well, his daughter, she's a beautiful woman. She was on Glamour magazine a couple months ago. She was my co-host one year, and her boyfriend was the lead guitar player for Guns N' Roses.
Mm-hmm.
Not the famous guy, Slash, the guy who he took his place when Slash left. It's called
Yeah.
Ashba.
Uh-huh.
And they were my co-host, and they were scared to death of everything, but I had them diving with sharks, and they really enjoyed it. And then they asked me to be a trainer for Ashburn, and I tried to get him into it, but he didn't want to do it a lot, so it didn't last that long. But they're just great people. It's been a lot of fun working with all types of people, but now it's working out now where people come in, the director and producers show them videos of what's going to happen to them, and it starts off with a physical readiness test. And in the Marines and the Navy and SEALs and everywhere, there's always a physical readiness test. It's usually 3, 4, 5 events, but I do it 10 events. And like when we do log PT, instead of just standing there doing log PT with curls, overhead press, sit-ups, and running, I'll do that for about an hour with them. And then I run them through the woods with it for another hour. We've even climbed up tree stands with these telephone poles, swimming. Once an alligator was swimming after us while they're swimming with the telephone poles. But I'm definitely, well, fifth season, every season I have to make it harder than the season before. So it's been a blast. And that's how I train people now.
That's really amazing. Just this past weekend, I won't say where I was, but I got to hold a A15 rifle.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, the person said to me, no, it's nothing's in it. So just put it over put the strap on. I'm like, whoa, they wear clothes with these and boots? And he goes, they carry ammunition. They carry a backpack with all that they need. I mean, the weight of just that. I remember my nephew, the Top Gun guy, saying at one point in recruiting, they were having a tough time because all the young new guys coming in were breaking their ankles because they couldn't handle the weight of.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to hit too hard on the younger generation, but I think it's 3 or 4 out of 5 now can't even make the physical standards coming into the military. But yeah, so if you take a soldier and you put, the weapon on him, and he's got a sidearm usually, and he's got his Alice pack or his backpack with all the gear, rucksack, ammo weighs a lot, and then you probably have a radio and medical kit with you and any extra supplies you need for the mission. It's a lot of weight in your boots and your camouflage uniforms and your helmet with your comms. It's a
And you
lot
think
of
about
weight.
all that, and then with the training you're doing with these civilians, I mean, I can't imagine their shock of, whoa, really?
Yeah. Yeah. And they come out of high school and boom, welcome. And then we'll put you in a war zone. Now go fight for your life.
Yeah.
It's a big transition for anybody. So they need training. They need to be trained well. And luckily, our military, we have such experienced people now after the last 20 years of war. We have such a finely tuned and trained military. So the guys coming in, the ladies and guys coming in now, they're getting the best training in the world. But they need it because of who we're going up against now.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be Iraq and Afghanistan and even Venezuela, these countries that aren't that difficult to take. Now we're going against China and Russia and Iran, and it's going to be a different story. And so our people, they need the best training in the world. And fortunately, they get it provided. It's a lot easier for, like for instance, if we go into Iran and we fight in Iran, it's easier for Iran because you can be on your home turf and fight people off. But when you have to go to another country and bring all your ships and people and the Marines and everybody to that country, like, I'm glued to what's going on in Iran right now because I'm pretty sure, I think most people are pretty sure that's going to happen.
Mhm.
And I feel really, really terrible for the people in the military because that's going to be a big one with China and Russia backing them, and the Houthis backing them, all the people who are backing Iran,
Mhm.
and we're not getting the big support in the U.S. we used to get.
Mhm.
Like for the first Gulf War, for instance, that big coalition George H. Bush put together. We're not getting that like we used to.
Mhm.
So it's such a different world, and
Mhm.
so I think now not only have to be physically fit, but really tuned into what's going on. And every war is so different than the one before it. But this next one, it's that's going to be a challenging war. I'm worried about what's going to happen coming up. I know, we're always ready, and we always, we walk out and we're okay. But that's being able to shoot and dive and shoot, move, and communicate is what we always say, and doing all the skills. That's what we had to contend with.
Mhm.
And it's easy to learn skills and get better at them. You just do them over and over and over. But now going to another country that's advanced and has a large military and large military countries that support that country, we haven't done that yet.
Mhm.
And that's different. And now the mindset, now it's not just being tough and being able to do anything and be able to do thousands of push-ups and all that. Now it's wow, it's a lot different now. Now we've drone warfare and the missiles and the cruise missiles and the all the Iron Dome, everything now is so much bigger than what I had to contend with in my years. And but we've always managed it and we've always handled it. But now I think that's the big thing to get young people super fit again and educated. Diane, can I mention one thing I'd like to say to kids?
Yeah.
Because I think it works here. When people ask me, how do you go be a SEAL or a Marine or anything like that, or a mountaineer? I said, okay, if you want to be a SEAL, all you have to do is a couple of things, and you just have to do them every day. But every day, number one, do something that makes yourself stronger. Every
Mhm.
day, do something. Go PT, go join Pilates, go to CrossFit, have a gym in your basement or something. But every day, do something to make yourself stronger,
Mhm.
and record it, and know that you're stronger today than you were yesterday.
Mhm.
Number two, if you want to be a SEAL, I'll say every day do something to make yourself faster. So if you
Mhm.
can do, like 500 yards in X amount of time, do 500 yards 10 seconds faster the next time. But make that your goal. You've got to be faster. And if you could run this hill, it's a mile and a half long, and you do it in 8 minutes or 10 minutes, now do it in 9:50. If you could do 120 sit-ups in 3 minutes, now do that 120 in 2 minutes 50. But do something every day to make yourself faster. So stronger, faster, and now more importantly than ever, that's why it brings me to this point, is do
Mhm.
something to make yourself smarter in the field you're going to get into. So if you're going to get in the military, pay attention to what we've done in the past. When I was in, we were in 89 different countries, the SEAL teams, but now we're in over 100 countries, and the world's bigger and it's stronger. And pay attention what's going to happen, what can happen, the enemy we're ready to face. So
Mhm.
stronger and faster and smarter in what you're going to do. If you want to be a SEAL, go learn to skydive, go learn to dive, learn to shoot, learn all that stuff.
Mhm.
But get stronger and faster, but get smarter in whatever you're going to do. And then most importantly, I think the fourth thing is
Mhm.
every day do something good for somebody, and that might be the man next door who's struggling carrying out his garbage can, or your sister who, can't do some chore around the house, or your mother doing dishes. Just every day do something good for somebody, because then if you start, and I love doing it when I get to talk to young kids, but even 15-year-olds or even 50-year-olds, it doesn't matter. But then when they go to sign up for selection and they go to do whatever they're trying to do, they might be the strongest person there. They might be the fastest. They might be the most well-read or the smartest. And they're the one everyone wants on the team because they're so used to doing good things for people. And I think now that applies. You've got to be strong. You got to be fit. And that's why we're humans are still here, because we're strong. We could take care of ourselves, and we're fit enough to take care of our families. And that doesn't happen by sitting on a couch. You got to be fit and take care of yourself and your families. But then you got to be smart and know what's coming up. So you're going to join the military, learn what's coming up, because it might be you someday who makes a decision that costs lives or can save lives. And then be the person everybody wants on their team, because all you do is good things for people. And you look, like we're getting back to the leadership thing, you look at that leader, boy, that leader, he'll do anything for that team. And that's what I get from this leader, that the team that we're in, he'll do or she'll do anything for us. And it's so apparent in everything that person does. It's the team first, not me or I. He doesn't care about himself. He'll do everything for the team. And we all feel that. And when you feel that, it's the type of leader you want. And so if that person started at 15 and was getting stronger and faster every day and smarter and doing everything for somebody else, to me, that makes the best leader. It makes the best teammate. It makes the person you want to be on a team with in the military or any other organization.
You know, that's priceless advice, and I've seen it in action. I remember watching my nephew's retirement, and all his Top Gun squad was with him.
Wow.
And after this after party in the aftermath, and one saying, like, somebody would say, well, you should see him, no matter how many people are at the gym, he's still there and he can still outrun everybody. And then you turn to that guy and say, really? And he goes, oh, no, he's the one. It was like this Teflon almost when it came to compliments. They were so ready to compliment the next guy. It was a fascinating leadership and camaraderie that you don't see too often.
Yeah. Boy, being at a Top Gun retirement ceremony, that'll be something you'll never forget for the rest of your life.
Never,
huh?
never.
No.
Especially when he took the F-35 for the final flight.
Oh, yeah.
Was an instructor for the F-35 as well. And when he took that for the final flight, and the sound as it goes by, and then that thing as it just comes down like a helicopter.
I know.
Oh my gosh, this is not real. Yeah.
And I love that community. I mean, I have to say, a lot of SEALs wish they would become pilots instead. I mean, because they just love what they do. I mean, a pilot can does do a lot of damage to the enemy. I mean, a lot, but also it's so much fun what they do. I've never even been in a jet or anything, but just to see what they do. Then they get off the plane and they walk around. They're just like good guys after seeing everything they can do.
Exactly.
It's
great.
Yeah.
Great guys. I have a painting that someone made that I bought one time, and it says, I fall in love at least twice a day. And I said to my husband, I think I fell in love like 20 times today. Just let you know. I love these guys.
Yeah, I could see why. I could definitely see why. And not to mention what they've done for the military recruiting. I mean, when all the recruiting was going downhill because of the withdrawal in Afghanistan, Top Gun came out and Navy recruitment went sky high.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was fun watching our 20, I guess he was 21 at the time, watch Maverick with my nephew.
Oh, yeah.
Two of them talk, and the amount of questions my 21-year-old was asking his older cousin. Like, wait a second, how's this happening? What are they doing? Can you really go like that? It was so much fun to watch.
Yeah, just to listen to that conversation would have been a treat.
I wished I recorded it.
Yeah. Maverick was one of my favorite movies in the last 15 years, probably.
Same with me. Same.
Yeah.
But my gosh, Don, I could talk to you. We're going to have to do this again. I'm officially
I'd like to, Diane.
Second invite. I love this episode. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. It's a pleasure to meet you over the video here.
Well, everybody, I'm Dian Griesel, also known as Silver Disobedience. This is the Silver Disobedience Perception Dynamics podcast, where we talk to the best of the best. And if you watch this interview, you know this episode nailed it. Don Mann is absolutely one of the best, totally inspiring. There are going to be all kinds of links below here to find out more about him. And I highly encourage you do, because I can tell you this, my Amazon bill just got bigger because I'm about to order, I don't know, 28 books or something like that. And I'm going to read them all and enjoy them for sure. And so thank you, Don. We're going over to the green room. Everybody, please share, hit subscribe, and follow Don. Get his books.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you very much. Thank you.